Look, SaaS is dead. Software as a service, no way. I mean it. The era of paying for $99 a month, $179 a month, these ridiculous fees over and over forever for software that almost fits your business, that's over. For the first time ever, you can actually build exactly what you need and you don't need to be a developer, right? And in this video, I'm going to show you the tool that helps your coding tools, your coding agents. It's the 120X Project Launcher. Quick context about me: my computer science degree, major way back from the 90s. I'm a career aviator, retired from the military and American Airlines, and I've delivered over 50 apps shipping with AI coding tools in the last 2 years. And the coding tools weren't my secret. Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, everybody's got those, and they're great. The difference is what I hand these agents before they write a single line of code, and that's the project launcher. And here's what it actually is. The launcher doesn't write your code, okay? Your coding tool does all that, but the launcher sets up everything your agent needs to be disciplined. That's the difference. It prevents vibe coding. It prevents drift. It prevents hallucination, and it prevents errors. And it's just not for new projects. If you've already got a half-built app, something you vibe coded in Replit or Cursor or Lovable that's turned into a mess, you're scared to touch it, well, the launcher can take that project, take it over, survey what's actually there, write the map, and put the thing back on rails. I've done it time and time again with many clients, and it's your best asset and your quickest way to create custom software. If you can think it, you can build it. You can do it with these tools cheaply. If you got a mess, you can fix it. I'll walk you through the whole thing on a real project, from idea to folder, to your coding tool building with receipts, to the mission control showing you exactly where you stand. The chapters are below. Let's go. So here's the home page for the project launcher, and essentially you're going to find 4 doors that are going to take you to the same output. The output meaning that you're going to get a folder structure or folder schema that you're going to put onto your hard drive and then attach your coding agent to. And that coding agent will then adopt the architect builder method, the 120X architect builder method. So that's always what we're trying to do in the launcher, is to give us that context, that discipline structure folder to start a project. And you can start from a template, which we'll talk about here. You can start brand new project from a blank template. You can bring your messy project that was outside of the 120X method and bring it into the method with this one. And then the last one is building a website. So let's start a brand new project. How will we start one? Obviously clicking here, and it's going to ask for some input. And there's basically 3 steps or 3 kind of areas of the input. The first one is the idea, which is the project basics you see down here. You've got the problem, defining the problem, these input areas here, and then you've got some more details. The more you can fill out, the better. You can certainly start typing inside of here, but I've got this big window for a purpose, because I'm highly, highly, highly recommending that you do it this way to fill out this form. And that is, have a brainstorming session with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or some other large language model. And if you haven't started one yet, you can copy this prompt and you can say, let's open it in Claude. And when you start this conversation, you can paste this prompt to help getting you started. And so basically what it's going to do, if you paste that prompt, it's going to interview you. And that's what it says on the phase 1 right there. Interview me about my project. So take all the time that you want. And then eventually what it's going to do in the phase 2, it's going to produce some output. And this output is going to be in these hashtags. And all of these hashtags equate to these form fields in the project launcher. So to me, this is the easiest way to get this filled out. So for example, I would start my conversation here and brainstorm about what it is in any order. Just vomit the ideas out of your head and out of your heart and figure out what it is you want to create. And eventually it's going to fill out that output so that you can populate the intake form. Say you've got a chat that you've already started, and you've got a great contextual history in some other chat, no problem. Paste it somewhere, anytime in the chat, anytime, anywhere, and say, hey, help me fill out this form. And just like in this conversation that you see right here with me, this was a brainstorming session that I did for a demo for an app that I created here on YouTube. And eventually what I did is I pasted the prompt late in the conversation, and eventually it came up with this output right here. You see the hashtags right there? That's hitting all the points. And I would just copy this, and I'm going to head over back to the project launcher and see right there, I make this window big for a purpose because I want you to, it says recommended, but I do this almost every single time. And I just go ahead and paste my prompt in there, or the output in there, and then I pre-fill the form, and you can see that the form is now filled out. And you can add additional text items in here, that you can make selections. Is this a SaaS product? Is it a client app? Whatever it is, you can add things to this. I mean, you can see it's already filled out because I did that brainstorming session. So this what makes it nice, doing it this way. And then the details here. If you miss something required, and eventually what you're trying to do is at this bottom here is create the architect workspace. If you don't have something filled out, just like in here, it's going to tell you, hey, finish the required fields. And I said, who will use this app? And this is going to be internal users. And now I can go ahead and create the architect workspace, and it's actually going to create a project in my project folder. And so it's a project called Pipeline IQ. This is the test. The inputs that I just did are still here. You can go re-edit these and re-enter this again. But eventually what you're going to do is, this is what you want. You want this folder, and you're going to save this generated folder, and you're going to put it on your computer. Now you can download the zip if you want to, or you can put it on, you just hit this and put it on your computer. It's going to say, well, where do you want to put it? And so decide where you want to put your projects. In this case, I'm going to put it in my 120x builds folder. It's this purple folder here. And I'm going to place it in here. Allow to copy the files, save the changes, and it's there. My folder, it's right there. It's in my builds. It's pipeline IQ 12124. But you can see that it's giving me all of this pre-filled folder schema and structure with all the markdown files that it's needed for the architect builder method, a place for the architect to place the architect packs, a place for the builder to place its sprints, and you get all this detailed organization and discipline structure for software engineering, so it's not vibe coding. So now that my folder's on my hard drive, I'm going to actually attach it to my coding agent, whichever one I want to choose. You can use Claude Code, you can use Codex, you can use any one you want. If you're going to use Claude Code, you're going to use the command/architect. In Codex, you're going to use $120x-architect. You can also copy the prompt and do that here. And so I'm going to open up my desktop version of Claude Code, and I'm going to start a new session. And so the important thing is to notice down here that you want to make sure that you're attached to the folder that you just put onto your hard drive. And so in this case, I'm going to click here. I'm going to open folder. I'm going to go to my 120x folder. I'm going to go to my builds, and there's that folder that I just created within the project launcher. So I'm going to select it, open that up, or select it. And now that you can see, my Claude Code is now attached to the appropriate schema. And so like here, I'm just going to enter that, the command that you see right there, /architect. Since I'm using Claude Code, I'll paste it in there and hit enter, and it's actually going to start the process now of taking on the personality of the architect in the 120x builder method, architect builder method. And so what's doing, it's going to read all the context. That's why that input form was so critical, is that it's reading everything about your project, getting up to speed, and this is going to be your greatest asset in helping you do discovery. It's kind of like brainstorming part 2. We did that brainstorming session to kind of get it out, idea out of your head. Well, now this is more structured brainstorming that's specific for your project within that folder schema now. So it's reading everything, and it's going to tell you, okay, here's where we're at. What do you want to plan? And as you can see, he's telling you in plain English. He goes, I'm the architect for this session. I've read the method files. I read the intake, the rigor profile. This is what this is. Pipeline IQ is a sales CRM you're building as a demo, a fictional 5-person startup sales team, right? So this was a product I did for a demo, right? And it's saying, here's my honest read. He's saying, here's what I'd push back on, the rigor profile context, your intake, and the builder will trip on it. Live AI calls on camera, your single biggest risk, so on and so forth. So it's kind of talking to me about for doing a demo, right? So I was creating a product that I could do for a demo YouTube. This is why I wanted to show it to you, is look how much of an asset this architect is for you, right? And so if you're broadly with me, I'd lay it out about 5 sprints. He's already telling me he thinks it's going to be about 5 sprints. Give me your calls on all the 3 decisions, so on and so forth. So again, you would take your time, answer all the questions, turn on the microphone. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this for the sake of the demo, but look at all that rich feedback that your architect is giving you out of the gate starting your project. I'm going to go ahead and just tell him here, let's go with your recommendation. Notice down here, I've had a new session called Architecture Discussion. I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call it, this is my technique. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to call it Architect Pack 001. And then I'm going to create a group for it. And for this case, We'll call it move to a group, new group, and we'll call it how to demo, right? Because that's what we're doing in here. And I'll save it. And now you can see down here, I've got an organization count on the left of how to demo architect pack 001. So I know that I'm talking to the architect, because what the architect is going to do here is he's eventually going to create, he's going to ask me as many questions as he needs. We're going to have a conversation, but he's eventually going to create an architect pack. An architect pack is a set of instructions and a big picture plan that he's going to give the builder that's going to allow the builder with no unambiguously create the code. Your architect is not coding. Your builder is going to create the code. Even though we're all within code, we've got personalities here where your architect is your greatest asset, helping you come with a big picture plan, telling you what's going on, and your builder is going to write the code. And so your builder is going to be a separate conversation within Claude Code. And I'll show you that here in a second once he writes the pack. So again, he's looking into decisions and building the pack as we speak. If you don't have a lot of questions filled out, he's going to ask the questions. He will not write the pack until you are both satisfied with the questions that you have a plan forward, okay? So already you can see right here, he told me, I think this is going to be about 5 sprints. That is one of the things the architect should be doing in this first session, is telling you how long this is going to take to get to maybe your first minimal viable product or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and let him cook, and when he gets done with the pack, I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so that was about 6 minutes, just so that you know. I paused it and we turned it back on, and he wrote the first pack for the first sprint. I love this information. Again, I keep talking about why the architect is such a great asset to you. I mean, look at this right out of the gate. If you're new to coding, if you've never coded anything before, or if you have, I'm telling you, this, you're going to get so much confidence in having this architect at your side. Here's some decisions that were recorded. All right here, what was settled. He's thinking it's going to be about 6 sprints now, discovery, foundation, so on and so forth. And one note, sprint 001 is thin. The method requires architect 001 to be planning only, and that's fine. So we're just doing a lot of kind of documentation, not a lot of coding in the first architect pack, but it's still the same. And let me just show you right here, if we look at the files, and if you look over here, this is the file structure over here, and you can see what is nice here. In the planning side, you've got the architect packs, and he wrote architect pack 001 right here. And if you look right here, if you look at this, what's inside that architect pack, the detail right out of the gate. Again, picture if you were building a house, this is an architect delivering detailed plans to his general contractor, his builder. Look at all of this, right? We've got decisions logs already being made. We've got what this product is all about, the domain, the rules that matter, the risks, the questions that, I mean, all this historical knowledge and this discipline, and this detail and this rigor to get your project going off on the right foot. Eventually down here, there's going to be a blueprint. Right here is the blueprint for the builder on what to do. These are the instructions at a high level, and the builder will figure out how to do that once he gets it. But just look at all this detail and this structure. And this is what I love about it. And all these documents from state to decisions, domain, all of this stuff is getting updated. This is the historical knowledge and the reason why the handoff is a folder. It's not a context conversation within a chat. Do you understand that? Because that's this, between each step, these markdown folders are getting updated, so there's no ambiguity, no drift, no loss of context for your project. Okay, that's why we do it this way. Okay, so now that we've got the pack ready to go, sitting in that folder, that architect's folder I just showed you, you're going to want to start a new conversation. And this is, and he says it right here, apply this handoff to the build. Okay, and so I'm going to do a new session. I'm going to make sure I'm in the right folder, and then I'm going to go /build, because if you look back at the project launcher and what it's telling you to do for the instructions is build it. And it says right here in Claude Code, do /build. And if in Codex, we'll do $120x builder. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to hit /build, and now we're taking on the personality of the builder. The general contractor is going to automatically go search for those files and those plans that we were talking about in there. He's going to read them, and he's going to give them the set of instructions, and he's going to execute. He's going to ask you a couple of questions along the way, and at some point when he comes up for the coding, he's not going to do it in sprint 1 so much because there's no code in sprint 1, but in sprint 2 and beyond, he's going to say, hey, this is the stop gate. Here's my plan. Do you approve? And so I'm going to, when he presents that plan, I'm going to copy that plan and go back to the architect in my conversation and say, hey, here's his plan. Do you approve it? And then when whatever the architect tells him to do, I'll paste it back to him, and then the builder will start writing code. Codex actually puts it in a group automatically, but you've got this ungrouped conversation or session right here. I'm going to rename this. We're going to call it builder, and this is sprint 001, and we're going to put it in that same group, move to the group that we just created, the how-to demo one, right? So I'm going to move it to that group. And so now you can see down here, I have architect and builder sprint 001. So right now you can see that the builder is taking on the roles. He's read the plan. He goes, this is what I'm doing. I'm updating everything, test target count, verification, all this stuff. If you've got things to do, he'll ask you, like here, right here, he stopped. He says, approve this plan and I'll apply the pack to create. And so essentially, this is my technique to get that second set of eyes. The builder has stopped. I'm going to copy his plan. I'm going to go back to the architect and I'm going to say, here is the builder's plan for approval. And then paste his plan and see what the architect says. Now, 9 times out of 10, he's going to say, hey, it's approved. But you'll be surprised. Every now and then the builder will catch something, the architect will catch something, and they'll say, hey, great idea. They'll change something, it's switch. And using that architect as it's intended, as that kind of gatekeeper, if you will, that second set of eyes that's going to make sure the builder isn't drifting or getting off context, staying on plan. And notice right here, he's saying approved with one fix, just like I was saying, and one confirmation. And it says the scopes question, you're right, let it stand. As a technique, in the beginning, I would like to say, can you give me what to say back to him, the builder, in a code box I can copy and paste? It's a technique because sometimes I don't know what the architect wants me to copy out of all of this. And if he puts it in a nice code box like this, it makes it nice and easy to just copy it and paste it. So you see already right out of the gate in the first one, even though this is simple no code, he's saying, hey, yeah, I like what he said, but there's a couple of things I want to make sure that he does and he confirms. So I'm going to copy that response from the architect and I'm going to take it back to the builder. I'm going to paste the response and let it go. And again, maybe this back and forth may seem a little crazy to you, but I'm telling you, you will save so much time and your code will be that much more robust and strong by having this kind of method. You're like kind of the CEO managing these two entities, and there is a human involved. Can we make this more automatic and more loop? Yes, we probably can, and I'm working on that. But I still am a firm believer that if you're going to be coding something, you need to understand what you're building, particularly if you're building it for a client. And so this is why I do it this way, okay? And so he's doing all of his work, and then eventually he's going to say, I'm done. We can close out the sprint. He will update all of the files, and he'll say he's closed. And then when he's closed, I will tell the builder or the architect, I said, hey, he says he's closed, because one of the things that the builder is going to do at the end, at each sprint, he's going to say, he's going to update the architect briefing and a couple other files, and the architect will check it. And then when he checks it, you will be in a good spot. The communication loop has been closed. And that's all you're trying to do, right? To make sure that the architect and the builder are talking to each other. So the builder is now done. He's finished up his sprint. He said he's done. He's done the architect briefing. I'm going to tell him to close out this sprint. And then I'm going to go back to the architect and I'm going to tell him sprint 001 is closed. Now, he's going to say, he's going to double check the work, and then he's going to say, okay, and eventually he's going to say, let's go on to the next architect pack. And you just repeat this process. You go back and forth. Now, the question always comes, do you start a new question or a new conversation in the architect pack? If you've got context, and you get down here, I mean, I've used in this conversation almost half, 45%. You can start a new conversation, or I might continue with this one as long as I got context for the architect. Now, for the builder, I always do a new conversation for each sprint. I don't even waste time. Even though I didn't use up a lot of context, it's just my technique, and I think it's better to keep the builder focused on one sprint and one sprint only. I found out that if I've done multiple sprints, the builder can get cattywampus on me and start doing stupid things. And so I just keep it for the builder to do one specific sprint, and that's it. And then I'm done with it. I start a new one. But for the architect, I like the context going like that. It keeps it going. It's in a different role. I like to keep it going. So that's my technique. So eventually what I'm going to do, but if I started a new one, it's the same thing. Just start a new session /architect. And the architect is going to, because of that briefing and everything that's up to date, it's going to know exactly where it's at and where it stands. What I wanted to show you is in the project launcher on this mission control for any of your projects, you can connect to your folder and it's going to update and give you a representation of where you're at. It's just a nice feature of the project launcher. So I'm going to select that folder that we're in, and you can see that we've delivered one sprint. We're in the very start. The forward plan is 5 sprints. Recommended next action. The next action is not recorded because it's still getting updated in the background, but it knows what it means, where it's at. It's showing you kind of your delivery roadmap of what's happening for 0-1 in the foundation. It kind of talks about your sprints that you're going to do, what the 3, 4, 5 is supposed to do, and what the launch is supposed to look like. And as you go through the project, it will update, obviously. It'll show your open decisions and your readiness signals. And Mission Control is also a place, too, that if I make updates to the 120X launcher, it'll tell you if your folder is up to date. If you connect a folder that's out of date, it will say, hey, you need to update this folder. And you can do it right here within the launcher, and it'll update your folder to the latest and greatest methods, okay? I can show you what another project that's more robust in here. Let's use it for this tool itself, the project launcher. If I connect myself to the project launcher, where there's multiple sprints that have gone on, and you can see we're on sprint 92. In this last iteration, we've done 6 sprints, and I don't have any sprints planned going forward. I've done 72 validation tests. What this means, what the outcome is, all of that, what's my recommended next action, repair plan. We can go back to the architect, and you can kind of see with the visibility of the sprints that I've planned over here all the way to 91 to 92 where we're at, and you can kind of see the sprints that we've done and the ones that I'm working on right now. And this one I haven't completely closed out, even though it's ahead. But anyway, it gives you a kind of a visual representation of a mission control, a dashboard. Not only keep your folders up to date, but it brings you up to speed, or it's a nice kind of summary of where your project is instead of just looking at contextual code or file structures, which you need to do as you're coding, but this kind of gives it to you in more of plain English. And you can see right here, as back at the architect, you can say, hey, sprint 2 planning. He said, hey, it's done. I'm already planning sprint 2. Sprint 1 was verified. What's changed and why? The builder found a real conflict I created. So 3 viable. Look at, this is why I love the architect. He's telling you when things are kind of going weird. Here's some things that you need to do. Here's some decisions. Here's how I see sprint 2. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree? Now, this is where you can get to brainstorm and go back and forth, or it can say, hey, yeah, I'll go ahead and write pack 002. So if I was ready, I would say generate pack 002, and then we would just start that whole process over again and adding architect builder conversations in my group as I see fit. Okay, so that's how to start a new project, and it's also a view of mission control. So let's go back here, and I'll briefly go over the other areas, but it's pretty much the same. Once you get that folder created and put on your hard drive, everything else is the same. But what's different here is what if you wanted to start from a template? I've got right now, and I'm going to keep adding more, but there's 43 templates in here that if you wanted to start, if you wanted to build something for your business, say you wanted to build a CRM or a sales KPI dashboard or a project manager, a budget tracker, order management, inventory management, equipment tracker, this will give you the foundation and help you start. It's not going to write the code for you. It's not going to create the app, but it is going to create the schema and the structure with that specific app. So you're skipping kind of the brainstorming, and you can pick up with kind of a basic generic app, and then you can tweak it with your architect as you start having that conversation with it, if that makes sense. And so in this case, if we wanted to create an event planner, we could come in here and we could use this template. And as you can see, already what's happened is that this form has already been filled out. Okay. Now, if I want to add there's some things that are going to be blank, but you can get these filled in by your kind of contextual brainstorming with the architect when you're done. But this just gets you pre-filled forms, already filled out, ready to go. And all you have to do is create that architect workspace. And then eventually, like I said, it's going to take you to that same project I got one called Event Planner. I could have named it something else. And same thing, save your generated folder. I'm going to, just like I did with the new project, I'm going to put this folder on my computer. And so I'm going to put this in my 120x builds folder. And I'm going to select it. And it's there. And then it's basically telling me now to run the architect from the folder. And so in this case, like I did on the start one, what if we wanted to build it in Codex? Well, that's fine. So I can open up my Codex and let's start a new chat in Codex or a similar tool as Claude Code. And I just need to move to that folder that I use, an existing folder that I just created, right? And if I go to my 120x build folder, there's my event planner. That's the one I'm going to open. And now I'm connected to the event planner and I place my skill in there and he's going to take on the role of the architect just like Claude Code did. So it's the exact same process from there. And so again, I'm going to use this coding agent in this tool, this first session, to brainstorm. And since I'm using a template and I'm using an event planner, he's going to ask me a lot of questions. So I'll just do brainstorming right out of the gate. Spend as much time as you want with the architect to get all the details that you want. And then eventually he's going to create that architect pack 001. And then once you do that, then you can go create your new conversation in Codex here. But then put the build command in here, right? The 120x builder or /build if it's in Claude Code. And the beautiful thing is, what if I started my architect in Codex because I want to, and I want my builder to be in Claude Code? You could do that. You could just open up Claude Code and put the /build, connect that folder, right? And because of that architect builder method, it's going to recognize it. And so it doesn't matter. You can switch from tool to tool. I do that all the time. And so right here, you can see he's acting as the architect. It's a clean starting point. The main task is this. Before I can respond layout, 3 decisions matter: operating reality, sources and updates, access and control. And then just start having a conversation with it. And then do the architect builder. This is my event planner like here. You can rename this, just a technique. I'd probably, rename this architect pack 001. Whatever you want. You can name whatever you want, just to keep it clear that at least I'm talking to the architect and where I'm at. And then the rest is just like I showed you in the starting a new project, architect builder, until you get the project done. And then back here at the homepage, if you're bringing on a project, a new method, this happens a lot. I've done a lot of people in here. They've started something in Replit, in Lovable, in Anti-Gravity, and they've got a mess on their hands. It was working great. They know they got an idea for a project, but it's kind of a mess. And so here, steps are a little bit different, but it's not that much different. So in this case, you're going to connect your project folder. So I'm going to find a folder that is not in the 120x architect builder method, right? So I've got a few in this projects folder. And in here, there's a bunch of projects that aren't in the architect builder method. And so let's do this one for LSR Pay. I don't think that one's in there. It's a small little project that we did. And it's going to ask me for permission, allow it. I'm going to say yes. So it's scanning that document. And it's saying, okay, this is what the plan's going to be for getting this into the 120x method. It's saying, here's what we're looking at. We're looking at 49 files. It's a Python. How would we probably tackle it? What do we want to name it? And then it asks me, is there anything we want to do with this project? It's optional. You don't have to do anything. And then I'm going to say, set up the 120x method in this project. I'm going to do that. I'm going to save the changes. And so what it's doing now is it's inserting into that folder, inserting all of the 120x method into the code base. It's not doing anything with your existing folders and structure or your code. It's not even touching it. So you don't have to worry about that. And so it says right here, it says the 120x method is now set up in 120x inside this folder. And it's saved to your list. We're going to open it here. And now we're going to need to run onboarding. Okay, so it's a different command. And so in Claude Code, we're going to run -120x. It's important you put that 120x : onboard. And in Codex, we're going to use this. And if you want to do a prompt, you can do that. You can copy that prompt either way. And so we're going to open up that folder. So here's that folder that had the LSR Pay. This is the folder, the folder that I connected to the 120x method. Now notice what it did right here is it put in this folder called 120x LSR Pay 2, right? It's got all the architect builder method, the schema, everything ready to go. But notice what it didn't do. It didn't touch the source code. It didn't touch everything on purpose because we don't want it to. Just like it says right here, is like, what do we do? It says, run this project in your coding tool. So same thing. I'm going to go right here. This is in the root, which we just did. We confirmed that that folder is in the repo root, right? We've added it. And so now let's go back to, I guess we'll go back to Claude Code. And let's do a new session. And the same thing, we want to make sure that we're attached to that folder. Now that folder, you want to attach to the little one that's inside of there, right? So I go to my builds. So we're going to, in this case, it was in the desktop, it was in the projects folder. And it was LSR Pay. And we're going to open up this folder. We're going to connect to that one, okay? And so now that we're in there, and now what I can do is I can sit /onboard. Actually, I'm just going to copy it just so I know because it's different. So I'm going to make sure I'm in Claude Code. I'm going to make sure I copy this because it's not /onboard. I was telling you wrong there. And so essentially what we're doing is it's still acting as the architect, but we call it onboarding because it just puts on an extra special cape. Because it's telling it that it's understanding that, hey, we've got an existing folder structure in here. And we got to be very careful that we're not screwing anything up outside of this. But we're going to use the architect builder method to go forward from this point on. So there's a little bit of cleanup, or maybe a lot of cleanup in this case. And sometimes in this onboarding, it'll ask you questions. How much do we want to clean up? What does it look like? But essentially what it's going to do, it's going to, again, be that great asset for you to help turn your messy project into this disciplined architect builder method. So when it writes out here, I'll show you what the output is. Let me just show you how powerful this is and why this is good. So this is a small focus. So it's examine the code. So this is a small payroll helper every week. Someone exports a job report out of this. It's 900 lines of this. What shape it's in. Honestly, it works, but it's fragile in ways that matter more than usual because this is money. Do you see the power of using this architect builder method? It's already pointing out something that if I hadn't had it, I would have missed, particularly if you're new to coding or if you're vibe coding your way through it. You've got this help. 3 things stand out, and the first one worries me. Second, each subcontractor tag has room for exactly 17 jobs. Third is save. But look at this. I didn't have this when I made this a year and a half ago. I didn't have this tool, right? So does this match your picture? Is this live and who's using it? What hurts us most today? Anything I must not touch? How fast and how much is risk? So on and so forth. Right there. And so I would just have this conversation with the architect. I would continue with here. And again, eventually he'd create an architect pack, even though we did this with the onboarding. And then we would, again, same thing, start a builder conversation until we're done. And then when we're done, we just keep going back and forth until all the sprints are done. And so it's the same thing from this point on. It's exactly doing, even though I started in this case, an onboarding, I would, again, rename this. I would call this maybe onboarding because that's what it is. My technique. And we'll say pack 001. And then I would create a group over here. Move to group. I'd create a new group and we'll call it LSR Pay because that's what it was. And now I have it organized under here under LSR Pay under this group. And then again, I would, when I do a builder, I would do a new session under LSR Pay, and I would call it builder, and we would just follow the instructions back and forth, right? And then my next session, I would probably call it architect. Like I wouldn't necessarily have to, I could do /architect after this one. I don't have to do the onboarding command anymore after that. I could just do /architect. If that makes sense. And then the last thing I want to show you is what would you do with if you wanted to create a website. And again, this came out of a request from a couple people using the launcher, and you can do the same thing. The intake form is very similar to starting a new project. And so what I would probably do is copy this prompt. It's a little bit of a different prompt, but I would open it. We'll say we'll open it in ChatGPT this time and paste that prompt. And it's a little more specific for website stuff, right? And so it's going to interview you. It's going to produce the intake, output rules, everything else. It's going to create this slug structure, right? And then when you get the answers filled out, when you've done your brainstorming about what you want your website to look like, and you get that all those slugs filled out, then you could come back in here and you could copy and paste, and it would fill out your form, your intake form, and then you would generate the folder, put the folder on the hard drive, and then you do the architect builder start over and over again. Once you get the project launcher, the reason why you have it is, again, is to get you that folder schema, to get that architect so your project starts off right. Once you get the folder structure, you can set it up in there. You can do architect builder, and you can come back in here to mission control to get that. Like I said, if you can connect your folder, it gives you that plain, particularly that, what do I call it? Plain English language, not techie speak, but like where you're at and what this means and what to do. If you get lost, particularly if you're new, this is a great way to kind of bring it home and kind of give you some clarity about where your project stands and what to do next. And again, you'd be working in your coding tool when you're doing most of your coding, but you can always come back here to your project launcher to kind of get this mission control. You have a projects folder in here. All your projects are in here, right? You can go and view them. These are the ones we've created. You can go back, all of these, see where it's at. It's going to tell you the instructions to do it. And there's a how-to section in here. If you ever get lost in the whole method, it's spelled out right here. You're going to fill out the intake, probably use a brainstorming session somewhere, and then bring it into the launcher, fill out that form, generate the project, generate the folder that comes out of that project, and put it on your computer, and then open that folder in the coding tool. And then you're going to either, if you're using Claude Code /architect, if you're using Codex, you can use this one. If you're in Cursor or some other thing, if you want to paste a prompt, it's all right there as well. And then when the architect generates the pack, then you're going to want to start a new conversation in the builder /build, or this command, run the builder. Builder's going to stop and say, here's my plan. Do you approve it? And then you take it back to the architect, and he says, hey, as a checkpoint here, this is for your approval. Architect say it's good to go. Go back to the builder and say you're approved. The builder's going to start building. And when he's done, tell the architect he's done, and then tell architect pack to start in, and you start that loop over and over again. Generating pack 2, generating pack 3, generating pack 4, right? And you just keep repeating that process until you're done. Again, if you're bringing the project in from non-coding, this is the instructions. If you're bringing in a folder and an existing project, you want to bring it into the 120x method. All right, guys, this is the tool. And of course, you got the templates. There's 43 templates in here that you can, without starting blank, these are more for like business applications and personal applications. But again, if you're entrepreneurial and you want to set up a tenant portal or an event planner for a customer, small business, you can start here and skip the brainstorming and go right into the coding with your coding agent. I'll be adding more templates. If you want to see certain templates, I can certainly add them here. I hope you enjoy the project launcher, and I'm excited to see what you're going to build. So I'll see you in the next video.